I have one thing to say, and it will not wait. Not tomorrow. Not after you finish scrolling through everything else that's fighting for your attention tonight. Not after the dishes. Not after the kids are asleep. Not after you've talked yourself out of believing this could actually be for you. Right now, my child, put down everything else for the next few minutes, because what I am about to say to you cannot wait one more hour. You clicked on this because something in your spirit recognized something in the words before your mind even caught up. You saw private message and something inside you, that quiet place you don't show anybody, whispered, "What if that's actually true this time? I want you to know before you go one sentence further that it is true. This is not a message for the masses. This is not a general word I toss out into the wind hoping it lands somewhere. I know exactly who is watching this right now. I know your name. I knew it before your mother knew it. And tonight, out of every person scrolling past thousands of videos, I stopped you here, on this one, because there is something I need you to hear before the sun rises on you again. This is your private message. I want you to hear that phrase and let it settle all the way down into your bones, because I did not choose those words by accident, and neither did you when you clicked. Somewhere in you, a door has been closed for so long you stopped checking if it would ever open. Somewhere in you, there is a specific ache, a specific fear, a specific person's name you have not said out loud in prayer in weeks because you were afraid of getting your hopes up again. I know that name. I know that ache. And I am not speaking in generalities tonight. I am speaking directly, privately, personally, to the exact situation you are carrying into this video. Stay with me, because if you leave in the next 90 seconds, you are going to miss the part where I tell you what I have already done, not what I am going to do, what I have already done, about the very thing that has kept you up at 2 a.m. this week. There is something I have been keeping from you, something I have not told you yet in this message, something I have been holding back on purpose, the way a father holds back the surprise until the exact right moment his child needs it most. I am not going to tell you yet. I need you to walk with me a little further first, because the reveal only makes sense once you understand what I am about to show you about my own character, about the way I move, about the way I have always moved for the ones the world had already written off. Let me take you back, my child, to a woman nobody expected me to use. Her name was Rahab, and she lived inside the walls of a city called Jericho, a city that everyone, including her, believed was about to fall to judgment. She was not a woman with a clean record. She was not the one anyone would have picked to carry the destiny of an entire nation on her rooftop. But 2 spies came to her under cover of night, sent by Joshua, sent by me, and she hid them when the king's men came looking. And when they left, do you know what she asked for? She did not ask for wealth. She did not ask for status. She asked for one thing, a sign, a private mark, something specific that would set her house apart from every other house in that doomed city when the walls came down. I told her to tie a scarlet cord in her window. That's it. One cord. One private, specific, personal sign, meant for her house alone, invisible in its meaning to everyone else in Jericho but unmistakable to the ones I sent to save her. Every other house in that city fell. Every other family inside those walls faced the judgment that was coming. But the house with the scarlet cord in the window stood, because I do not forget the ones who tie their hope to my word, even when their history is complicated, even when they have nothing else to offer me but a willingness to believe. My child, this message tonight is your scarlet cord. It is the mark in the window. Out of everyone inside the walls of your life right now, your worries, your fears, your family's opinions, the noise of the world telling you to give up, I am marking you. I am setting you apart. This is not a coincidence that you are here. This is a rescue in progress. Now, I know some of you watching this are smiling on the outside while something inside you is quietly falling apart. I see you at your kitchen table with the bills spread out, doing the math for the 5th time, hoping the numbers change. I see you lying next to someone in bed at night who has not looked at you the way he used to in longer than you want to admit. I see you checking your phone for a text that never comes from a child who stopped calling. I see the mother crying in her car in the parking lot before she walks inside and puts on the face everyone expects to see. You have been holding this together with tape and prayer and sheer will, and tonight I am telling you, you do not have to hold it alone one more day. I want to tell you about a woman named Zarya Doncaster. She lived in Lubbock, Texas, and 8 days before everything changed, she sat at her kitchen table at 11 o'clock at night with divorce papers spread out in front of her, the ink from her husband's pen still visible where he had signed his half. 14 years of marriage. 2 kids asleep down the hall who had no idea their whole world was about to split in half. She told me later that the sound she remembers most from that week was silence. Not fighting, not yelling, just a cold, exhausted silence between 2 people who had run out of anything left to say to each other. She had prayed for that marriage for 3 years. She had gone to counseling alone because he wouldn't go. She had read every book, tried every conversation, cried every kind of tear a woman can cry, and still the papers sat there on that table, waiting for her signature. She told me she almost didn't watch a message like this one. She told me she thought, I've heard this before, I've hoped before, I can't do this again. But something made her stay. Something made her whisper, right there at that table with the papers under her hands, God, if you are real, if you see me, do something only you could do. I am not asking for a miracle for show. I am asking because I have nothing left. 8 days, my child. 8 days later, her husband called her from the parking lot of his office and asked her to meet him for coffee, not to finalize anything, but because he said something had cracked open in him that week that he could not explain. He canceled the court date. They are in counseling together now, both of them, willingly. And Zarya told me that the first night she felt his hand find hers under the table again, she thought about this very kind of message. A private word, sent right on time, right when she was ready to give up. I am telling you this, not so you admire Zarya. I am telling you this because whatever your version of that kitchen table is, whatever papers are spread out in your life right now, an actual divorce, a diagnosis, an eviction notice, a resignation letter you've been afraid to submit, a relationship you don't know how to save, I am the same God who moved for her, and I do not run out of miracles. I did not use up my power on her story. There is more where that came from, and some of it has your name already written on it. If you received that, if something in your chest just tightened because you know exactly which situation I am talking about in your own life, I want you to type the word restored in the comments right now before you keep watching. Not because I need to see it, I already know your heart, but because I want you to see it. I want you to see your own fingers typing that word into existence, declaring it before the evidence has even shown up, the way Zarya declared it at that table before her phone ever rang. And while you're there, before you scroll any further, hit that like button. Not for me. I don't need it. Do it as your agreement with heaven, a small physical act that says, I am not just watching this, I am receiving it. Every time you press it, you are saying yes to what I am doing in you tonight. Some of you have watched 100 videos like this one and scrolled past without ever once saying yes out loud. Tonight, say yes. Now let me tell you the thing I have been keeping from you, the thing I promised I would reveal. Here it is, the very struggle you are most ashamed of, the one you would never say out loud in a room full of people, the one you think disqualifies you from a miracle. That is the exact place I have already been working the longest. not the parts of your life that look put together, the broken part. The part with the scarlet cord tied to it, whether you can see the cord yet or not. I have not been waiting for you to fix yourself before I move. I have been moving underneath the mess the entire time. But there is a second thing I have not told you yet, and I promise before this message ends, I will show you exactly what it is. Stay with me, because what I am about to expose next is something the enemy does not want you to understand, and once you see it clearly, you will never be fooled by it again. I need to talk to you plainly for a moment about what has actually been happening around you these last few weeks, maybe months. Not vaguely, specifically. There has been a voice, and it is not mine, that has been feeding you a very particular lie on repeat. It sounds something like this. This message isn't really for you. It's a generic template. Everyone gets a message like this. You're not special enough for God to actually be speaking directly into your situation. That voice has been working overtime on you, my child, because the enemy knows that the moment you actually believe this word is personal, private, and precise, your faith stops being polite and starts becoming dangerous to his plans. He has also been working through isolation. He has been quietly convincing you that no one would understand if you told them the truth about what you're facing, so you've pulled back from the people who could have prayed with you. He has been working through delay, stretching out the waiting season just long enough that you start to wonder if the answer is ever coming, hoping the wondering turns into giving up before the breakthrough arrives. He has been working through comparison, showing you everyone else's highlight reel, while you sit in your low-light reality, whispering that you're falling behind in a race that was never even a race. And he has been working through your own exhaustion, because a tired person questions everything, even things they used to know for certain. I want you to hear this clearly. My word for you tonight comes from John chapter 10, verse 10. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. That is his entire job description. He is not creative. He does not have new tricks. He steals your peace. He kills your hope. He destroys your relationships. And he has been doing this to you in small, quiet ways you didn't even recognize as spiritual warfare. You just thought it was life being hard. But I came, the verse continues, that you may have life and have it abundantly. Not surviving life, not barely holding on life, abundant life. Overflowing life, the kind of life where the very thing the enemy meant to steal from you becomes the very thing I use to display my glory in front of everyone who doubted you. If you're hearing this, and something in you just recognized the enemy's fingerprints on your last 6 months, I want you to comment the number 888 right now. Do it as a declaration that you see the schemes clearly now, and you are done cooperating with them. Let me tell you about a man whose story shows you exactly how I deal with what was stolen from someone through no fault of their own. There was a prophet named Elisha, and a group of young men who followed him needed to build a place to live, so they went down to the Jordan River to cut wood. One of them was working with a borrowed axe, not even his own tool, something he had to give back. And as he swung it, the iron head flew off the handle and sank straight down into the water. Gone. Iron does not float. Everyone in that culture knew that. It was lost, and worse, it wasn't even his to lose. He owed it to someone else. He cried out to Elisha in pure panic, "Master, it was borrowed." And Elisha did something strange. He didn't dive in. He didn't send someone downstream to search the riverbed. He cut a stick, threw it into the water at the exact spot where the axe head sank, and the iron, heavy, sunk, by every law of nature gone for good, rose to the surface and floated. He told the young man, "Pick it up," and he did. My child, I want you to sit with that image for a moment. Something was taken from someone through circumstances entirely outside of their control, something that did not even belong to them alone, something they were responsible for restoring, and by every natural law, it should have stayed lost forever at the bottom of that river. But I do not obey the laws of loss the way you think I do. What sinks in your life is not beyond my reach. What was taken by someone else's carelessness, someone else's greed, someone else's betrayal, I can make it rise again. I can make what should be gone forever come back up to the surface, right into your open hands. I want to tell you about a man named Silas Broderick from Amarillo, Texas. Silas built a small contracting business over 11 years with a partner he trusted like a brother. They had built homes together, dedicated their handshake deals on job sites with nothing but their word, and Silas believed, truly believed, that this man would never turn on him. Then one Tuesday morning, Silas opened the business bank account to pay a supplier and found it nearly empty. Not low, nearly empty. 6 figures gone. His partner had been siphoning funds for months through a shell account, forging Silas's signature on 2 loan documents, and by the time Silas discovered it, the man had already disappeared, leaving Silas holding debt that wasn't his, a company on the verge of collapse, and a betrayal so deep he told me later he sat in his truck in the driveway for 45 minutes before he could make himself walk inside and tell his wife. 10 days. That's how long it took from the morning he found that empty account to the morning everything turned. He told me he did not sleep more than 3 hours a night that whole stretch. He called a lawyer he couldn't afford. He prayed prayers he described as more like screaming than praying. On day 7, he found this kind of message, a word that told him God had not looked away from what was stolen from him. He said something, in him finally stopped trying to fix it in his own strength, and instead said, out loud, alone in his truck again, God, I can't get this back. You're going to have to be the one who makes it float. By day 10, a former employee of his ex-partner came forward with documentation that not only cleared Silas of the forged loans, but led investigators straight to the missing funds, still sitting in an account his ex-partner hadn't had time to drain. Restitution was ordered. The debt collapsed off his company's books, and within 3 more weeks, 2 of his former partner's biggest clients came directly to Silas, because they said they trusted his name, not the other man's, and his business grew larger than it had ever been before the betrayal happened. This is what I meant when I said, at the very start of this message, that this is a private message for you. Do you understand now what that phrase actually means? It does not just mean, I know your name. It means I know exactly what was stolen from you, exactly who took it, exactly how deep the water is where it sank, and I am already standing at the riverbank with the stick in my hand. What looks permanently lost to you, the money, the trust, the years, the relationship, the reputation someone tried to tear apart. I am not asking you to dive in after it yourself. I am asking you to trust me while I make it rise. If that just landed in your spirit, I want you to share this message right now with one person, someone specific God is already putting on your heart as you read this. You know who it is. Their name just appeared in your mind. Don't overthink it. Send it to them before you keep scrolling. And before we go further, I have to be honest with you about something, my child, because I promised I would never waste your time with half-truths. Ministries like this one only continue reaching people like Silas, like Zarya, like the version of you sitting there right now, because people who have been touched by these words choose to sow something back into what carries them. If this message has shifted something in you tonight, if you felt Zarya's kitchen table become familiar, if Silas's sinking axe head felt like your own sinking situation, I want to invite you to consider sowing a seed of faith using the Super Thanks button below. This is not payment. You cannot pay for what I already gave freely on the cross. This is a declaration, a scarlet cord tied in your own window, a statement that says, I believe what God is releasing in my life tonight is worth more than what I am giving right now. Some of you reading this have been on the receiving end of miracles for months without ever sowing a single seed back into the soil that grew them. Tonight might be the night that changes. I told you I would show you the second thing I had been keeping from you, and here it is, so listen closely, because this changes everything about how you see the rest of your life. The thing I have been holding back is this. The delay you have experienced was never punishment. It was preparation. Every day that has felt like waiting, every season that felt like nothing was happening, I was not asleep. I was not distracted. I was doing the slow, careful, invisible work of making you ready to carry what I am about to hand you, because some blessings would crush a person who received them too early, and I love you too much to let that happen to you. If you believe that word right now, if something in your chest just eased for the first time in weeks, I want you to type the word "still believing" in the comments. Not because the wait has ended yet for everyone reading this, but because your faith in the waiting room is exactly what moves my hand. I want to tell you about a man named Caleb, because his story is going to reframe everything you think you know about being too late. Caleb was one of 12 spies sent into the Promised Land, and he was one of only 2 who came back with a good report, who said, "We can take this land because God is with us." For that faithfulness, I made him a promise. The mountain he had walked on as a spy, the very ground where he had seen giants and refused to shrink back in fear, would one day belong to him. Then he waited. Not a few months, not a couple of years. 45 years, my child. 45 years of wandering, of watching an entire generation die in the wilderness around him, of growing old while the promise sat untouched, unclaimed, seemingly forgotten. By the time Israel finally crossed into the land I had promised them, Caleb was 85 years old. 85. Most men his age were done fighting. Most men his age would have quietly asked for a small, easy plot of land near the back where nobody would bother them, content to simply rest in whatever years remained. Caleb did not do that. He walked up to Joshua and said, "Give me this mountain, not a valley, not a flat, easy field. The mountain, the very one with the fortified cities and the giants still living on it, the hardest, most impossible piece of ground in the entire Promised Land." And he said, "I am still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me. My strength for battle is just as it was then." At 85 years old, this man went up that mountain and drove out giants that had terrified an entire nation 45 years earlier, and he took what I had promised him. My child, I need you to hear this if you have been telling yourself it is too late for your dream, too late for your marriage to be saved, too late for your body to heal, too late for your finances to recover, too late for that relationship to be restored, too late for the calling I placed in you back when you were young and full of fire before life wore you down. Caleb did not receive his promise young. He received it old and stronger than ever, because I do not measure your readiness by your calendar. I measure it by your faith, and faith does not expire with age. This is your season to say, "Give me the mountain," even the one with giants still standing on it, even the one everyone else told you to avoid because it looked too hard. My word to you here is Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Do you see the connection, my child? Caleb didn't ask me to move the mountain out of his way. He asked for the mountain itself, giants and all, because he trusted that his faith combined with my power was enough to take what looked unconquerable. You don't need a mountain of faith to move your mountain. You need a mustard seed. You need the smallest, most fragile, "I still believe you," whispered honestly, "and I will do the rest." Now I want to bring you to someone whose story is not finished yet, because I want you to understand that some of the deepest miracles I do are the ones still unfolding right now, in real time, in someone's actual present tense, not a tidy ending wrapped in a bow, but a living, breathing work in progress that requires your faith exactly the way it requires theirs. Her name is Mireille Auclair, and she lives in Shreveport, Louisiana. For 6 years, Mireille did not speak to her mother. The wound between them ran so deep that even naming what caused it still brings tears to her eyes, words said in anger during a family crisis that neither of them knew how to take back, pride on both sides that hardened over time into something that felt permanent, immovable, like a mountain neither woman had the strength to climb. Mireille told me she stopped setting a place for her mother at Thanksgiving after the 3rd year. She stopped hoping for a birthday call after the 4th. She told herself she had made peace with it, but she cried every single Mother's Day in her car before she ever walked into church, and she never told a single person why. She found herself watching a message like this one on a Tuesday night, exhausted, half expecting nothing, and something about the words, "This is a private message for you," cracked something open in her that she had sealed shut for years. She told me, she whispered, right there on her couch, "God, I don't even know if this is possible anymore." Too much time has passed, too much was said, and I want you to hear my word to her, and to you, from Luke chapter 1, verse 37, "For nothing will be impossible with God." Not nothing was impossible, not nothing will be difficult, nothing will be impossible, not the marriage that looks over, not the business that looks bankrupt, not the 6 years of silence between a mother and a daughter who both love each other too much to admit how much they miss one another. Mireille's story is still unfolding right now as I speak to you. It has not reached its ending yet. But 3 weeks ago, her mother sent her a text message. Just 4 words. "Thinking about you today." The first contact in 6 years. Mireille told me she stared at that message for 20 minutes before she could make herself respond. They have exchanged 4 more messages since then. There has been one short, awkward, beautiful phone call. There is no full reconciliation yet. There is no group hug, no tearful reunion dinner, not yet. But there is a crack of light coming through a door that had been sealed for 6 years, and Mireille told me she now believes, for the first time since this began, that the door is actually opening rather than closing. I am telling you her story because some of you watching tonight are not looking for an instant miracle like Zarya's, and you're not even looking for a 10-day turnaround like Silas received. You are looking for permission to keep believing in something that is still, right now, painfully unfinished. My child, I want you to hear me. An unfinished miracle is not a failed miracle. It is a miracle in motion. Mireille's restoration is happening in real time, one small text message at a time, because I am not in a hurry the way you are, but I am always moving, even when the movement looks like 4 words on a phone screen instead of a full embrace. This is who I am, and this is what I meant from the very first line of this message. This private message was never just information for you to consume and forget. It was an announcement of what I am already doing in the exact situation you carry. The sudden miracle like Zarya's, the 10-day reversal like Silas's, or the slow, ongoing thaw like Mireille's. All 3 are miracles. All 3 came from the same hand. And all 3 started the same way, with someone deciding to keep believing on a night when believing felt foolish. Someone who sowed a seed of faith last week wrote to me afterward and told me that within days, a relationship she had grieved as permanently broken received its very first crack of light, almost exactly like what Mireille experienced, an unexpected message from someone she thought had closed the door on her forever. Your seed is not going to a person, it is going into the kingdom, and the kingdom always multiplies what is sown in faith, especially when it is sown toward restoration that seemed impossible. If your spirit is nudging you right now to sow something toward this ministry, not because you owe anything, but because gratitude is rising in you the way it rose in Mireille when that text message appeared, I want you to listen to that nudge. That nudge is me, and obedience to that nudge has always unlocked the next level for my people. If you are claiming restoration in a relationship tonight, whether it is estranged like Mireille's, betrayed like Silas's, or breaking like Zarya's, I want you to comment the phrase, "still believing," one more time right now, and let it be your declaration that you are not giving up on the unfinished parts of your story. You do not have to give anything tonight. I want to say that plainly because I never want you to feel pressured into an act that should only ever come from joy. But if your spirit is nudging you toward the super thanks button as you finish this message, I want you to trust that nudge the same way Mireille trusted a 4-word text message enough to respond to it. Small obedience opens large doors. I have watched it happen too many times to count. Now I want to speak plainly to you about the enemy one more time, because he does not give up easily, and he especially does not give up on the people who are closest to their breakthrough. Right after Zarya's marriage began healing, the enemy whispered to her that it wouldn't last. Right after Silas got his restitution, the enemy tried to convince him he would never trust a business partner again as long as he lived, robbing him of joy even in his victory. Right now, as Mireille reads her mother's messages, the enemy whispers that she is a fool for hoping, that this will end in more pain than before. He does this because he knows that the moment right after a miracle begins is often the most fragile moment of all, when your faith could either deepen into something unshakable or shrink back into fear the instant things aren't perfectly, immediately resolved. Do not let him win that moment, whatever stage your miracle is in tonight, sudden, gradual, or still unfolding. Guard it with your words. Speak life over it the way I have spoken life over you since before you were formed. Subscribe to this channel and stay close to this word, because I am not done speaking, and there are things coming for you that you are going to need to hear before they arrive, the way Mireille needed this message before that text ever came through. This was your private message. Out of every person scrolling tonight, out of every video competing for your attention, I stopped you here, on this one, because I have already moved in the exact situation you brought into this room with you. Whatever you came in carrying, the papers on the table, the sinking axe head at the bottom of the river, the mountain with giants still standing on it, the 6 years of silence. I want you to hear this clearly one final time. This message was never generic. It was never random. It was written for you before you ever clicked play, the way the scarlet cord was tied in the window before the walls ever fell, the way Caleb's mountain was promised 45 years before he ever set foot on it. If everything in you agrees with what has been spoken tonight, I want you to type the word restored into the comments one final time, right now, as your closing declaration. Let it be the last thing you do before you close this video, not the first thing you forget. And before you go, I want to ask you for one seed, one act of obedience, one small yes. If this message reached the tender places in you the way I intended it to, consider sowing through the super thanks button below, not as a transaction, but as your own scarlet cord tied in the window, a sign, private between you and me, that you believe I am already at work in what looks unfinished in your life. Share this with the person whose name appeared in your mind earlier and never left. Comment 888 one last time as your seal on everything spoken here tonight. I already moved, you just haven't seen it yet. That is not a hope I am offering you, my child. That is a fact I am declaring over you. The money is already on its way back up from the riverbed. The mountain is already being cleared of the giants that have terrified you for years. The phone is already being prepared to buzz with the message you have been waiting on. I do not operate in your timeline of visible proof.